Welcome back to the podcast. We have a fun episode today. We want to talk about, as a father, how do you maintain your physical fitness when shit is hitting the fan all around you? As dads, we know that sickness can come and take over the whole house. We know we can have super stressful times at work. We know we can be having a rough time with our wife and we're not seeing eye to eye and we're butting heads, right? We deal with plenty of stress on a daily basis. So how do you stay consistent with your physical fitness? Because as we've touched on a lot, we believe that is an absolute cornerstone of being a dad, right? Again, the least of our worries is how we look aesthetically. That's not why we're talking about physical fitness. I think for us, it's way more about how we come to our family energetically, right? Getting stuff done. I mean, there's just so many. The reasons we need physical fitness as dads are frankly endless. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I think Sam's going to talk honestly more about this than I have, because I have been known to absolutely fall off the wagon when shit hits the fan. And it's like I have taken months off of lifting, for seemingly ridiculous reasons, and so I'm interested to hear what Sam has to say, because I think Sam has more, frankly, experience in this on staying consistent. And I also have, to his credit, we became friends, and I told him, oh yeah, I got a gym at my house, and I love lifting. And he's like, oh, so what do you what's your program right now? Oh, I'm not lifting right now, and it's like he got me back into it consistently, and I've learned a lot from Sam on how to stay consistent. So I don't know when I really started again, how many months ago it was, but this is,
bro, it's probably like a year and a half.
yeah, probably a year and a half. It's been the most consistent stretch I've ever had, where just I'm hitting the gym on a regular basis. And so thank you, Sam, publicly. I want to thank you, because he got me back into it, shamed me back into it. But then also I've learned a lot about tips and tricks he has to stay consistent. So that's what we're covering today.
And we couldn't be close friends if you weren't working out.
I mean, let's be real.
We could be friends, but there's a certain level that you just can't reach,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Guys respond very well a lot of the time to shame, right? And so I could see the judgment in Sam's face, like when I had, several $1,000s of rogue gear and just collecting dust. Like, that's shameful. It hurt me, and I saw the disgust in his face. And so thank you. That is a big piece of it.
Yeah, so I think the thread that's interesting about this to me is the thread of, I'm a new dad, or I have young kids. The thing that I remember feeling the most, and we're not that far out of it, our oldest kid is 6, but when you have kids, it's just like all the influences out there, the influencers, fitness people, like none of them are in that situation. And the reality is they probably never were. So if you are present with your family, if you're a part of the family, if you're helping with the kids, you are living a crazy life when you have a baby or have babies, like young kids. It's like you are not sleeping, kids are getting sick, you're just doing crazy stuff to make things work, like your sleep setup is crazy, or like doing magical, beds, like jumping between, helping kids settle down, or they're coming into your bed, like whatever the case may be. And so what it looks like to somehow stay in shape throughout that is something that, to my knowledge, there's no model for. I've never seen anyone be like, here's how you stay in shape while this stuff's happening. They're just like, hey, what I'm doing is I'm going to the gym for 2 hours to kind of doing me, and I'm like a fitness model. So you should do that too.
Yep.
And it's like, thanks, thanks for the advice, as I see your family like leaving you and your life falling apart. You know, it's like, so we're not those people. Like we're not doing like influencer videos in the gym of us, like working out, and like we're not like crazy bodybuilders or whatever. It's like, that's not our life, right? Mm-hmm. It's a part of our life, as it should be.
Yep.
And so the stuff that I wish people talked about was like, what is it really like to stay on, like to not fall off during those times? Because that's the easy thing to do that lots of people do. It's just like, well, we have kids now. I was kind of looking at that fitness stuff before, but that's gone now. It's time for dad bod, like it's all good.
Yep.
The important thing is I'm just a good dad, and, I'm around for my kids, And so that's kind of what happens is people, if they never had the kind of framework for it before, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they did, what happens is they kind of go, well, I don't got time to drive to the gym and work out for an hour and a half and then drive back. Like, seems like that's not really fitting into my schedule with my wife and my kids. They don't really want me spending 2 hours at the gym. So I don't really know what to do.
Right.
It's like,
right.
yeah, those days are over, dude. Like, you're
Yeah.
not freaking spending an hour and a half in the gym doing like your arm workout
Yeah.
and like, you know what I mean? So
An
it's
hour
like,
of cardio after your full workout.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not doing that anymore. And so, I mean, we'll talk about this. That's one benefit of having some home gym capability of any sort, whether
Yep.
it's like dumbbells or bands or pull-up bar or whatever. But yeah, so like it can be done, dude. And it's just like, I'm someone that's kind of gotten through it. I've seen other dads do it, but it's not what you think it is. I'm not having my kind of beauty time out in the gym where it's just my me time. Like, there's no concept of like, hey, Raquel, I need time for myself. You know, like I'm going to just, you watch the kids while I go up here and do me in the gym. It's
Yep.
like, no,
Yep.
it's actually unacceptable that I do that. It's actually that I have to do it when no one else is awake. That's how we've made it work. And
Yeah.
that's just us. But I'm just saying, like, you can't have the gym time you used to have, right?
Yep. Yep. Well, and I think too, like you've probably had this. I've seen this for you too. Like sometimes I do want to just put on metal and do a PR with squat and have it.
Yeah.
It's dangerous and there's a lot of weight. And the last thing I want is my 4-year-old running around. Okay. But then there are other times where I have to lean into that and be like, you know what? We're setting an example and there's going to be 2 kids in this gym.
We do that for sure. Yeah.
And we're having fun
Yeah.
with it. Right. It's like, but I hear you, right? It can't be this like, it's me time. Don't make sure the kids don't come up here. Right. I'm in here for the next hour and a half for the,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, But anyway, I wanted to throw that in there, right?
No,
Sometimes
that's a good point. I like having
yeah.
our kids out there.
Yeah, me too.
So like I will do now, and this is a reflection of the age they're at now, but like I will do the weekend workout now during the daytime sometimes where they're there.
Strategically, right?
And that's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, like today, we as a family, me, my wife, we got up early, and me, my wife, and 3 of my 4 kids all worked out together.
Awesome.
And it's one of the coolest moments of my life. Like, honestly, it is as cheesy as that sounds. It's like I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. They're getting after it. My little 7-year-old, like obviously age appropriate movements, but like as a family, we homeschool. So I told my wife, I was like, look, I actually think they're and again, I don't know what PE class looks like in 2025, but I know when I was growing up, like I was like, they're missing PE class, right? So I'm like, I will be PE teacher. I have to grow a mustache or something. Yeah. But I'm like, I'll be a PE teacher 3 days a week, but let's just all lift as a family together, right? And it was so fun today. And I want to do that more. Like I cannot wait for not tomorrow, the next day for us to do that again. Yeah. So there is a lot of opportunities just for bonding and setting a good example with the home gym. So he said it, but I'm like, I'm such an advocate of investing in a home gym. And like you said, if the budget's not there right now for you, like some dumbbells and a bench can get you so far.
Totally.
Yeah.
The budget thing to me is not a factor because it's kind of like, okay, I've been lifting for a long time. I'm relatively advanced or whatever. Like, yeah, I kind of want to have like a squat rack and the full setup, right? A lot of people that I coach getting into working out, it's like the best thing for them to have at that moment is a couple dumbbells and some bands.
Yep.
You know, and like maybe so I have people get a bar they can put in the door frame. They can do pull-ups on it. They can do rows on it. That's kind of what they need at that point in time. And so that's actually where most people, like if you're kind of on the fringes of working out or you used to and you aren't really now, like you can have this set up with probably like, I don't know, $50, $100 of like, you're good to go for a while, like years potentially. Like, dude, a lot of people that I've helped, it's like they never progress beyond that setup. And it's insane if you have the right kind of structure, the progress you can make.
Yeah.
Like truly.
Yeah.
Like, I have guys that have gained 10, 20 pounds of muscle, completely changed their bodies, like just from those things.
Yeah.
Just dumbbells, a bar in their door, because it's like you can do a lot. You can't do you can't do squatting really. You can't like heavy squatting. You can do goblet squats with dumbbells, but you can't do serious squatting or deadlifting or benching, that type of stuff. But it's not like a massive compromise either, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, look, I definitely recently I definitely went the other direction and spent like too much money on gym gear. But I will say before that phase of my life, I invested in like we actually have a very similar like squat stand. You buy a barbell, you buy like probably $300 to $500 of weights, and like I think that is money in the bank. Like I
Totally.
don't think you should not do that. I think you should do that because number one, you'll look at it and you'll want to justify that purchase. Like years after I bought it, I looked at it and I was like, all right, I'm going to start working out again. Like
Yeah.
it's just one of those pieces that it's built to last a lifetime, this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like and again, I feel really bad for gym owners because I'm like, I just feel like they're, and I could be wrong. It doesn't even matter, right? I'm like, are they going to go the way of the movie theater? But because it's like, I'd rather watch a movie at my house. I don't have people yelling at me, above me. And it's like so much more
Yeah.
convenient. And for me, especially as a dad, like the garage gym or the basement gym is the way, like in our opinion, right?
Only exception I would say are like, so commercial gyms, forget about it.
Yeah.
I think CrossFit gyms are cool, and like I think there's a place for that.
Mm-hmm.
There are gyms, like I have friends, like my friend Foster has this place called Westwood Athletics in Virginia.
Okay.
The best gym ever.
Cool.
Like just
I want to hit it up now.
you would like be there a member in a second
Yeah.
if you lived close to it, and so would I. Right. So like there's sick places that
Mm-hmm.
are made by people that lift. Like Foster lifts. Right. Like he is a lifter. He made a gym for lifters.
Well,
like,
and again, like, and by the way, right, when we were single or you're young and you want it more as a community thing and
Yeah.
you're looking to meet people, like, I actually think gyms are great places, right? I'm thinking it through. I'm just more like, we don't have time,
Don't have
right?
it's time is
Yeah.
the thing. So like I would probably still be a member at that if I was in Virginia and go there sometimes.
Right.
But I'd still have the home gym setup,
Right.
no
Yeah.
doubt.
Totally.
So I mean that ties into the whole theme of like stuff's hitting the fan, right?
Yes.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like if we're on a 2-month stretch of no one's sick or there's no issues or injuries or whatever, it's like you are cruising for if you have 2 months of uninterrupted gym progress.
Yes.
The reality is, it's just like this last weekend, Raquel's mom was over. We had different sleeping arrangements. I couldn't really like everything kind of gets moved around, and now you're kind of like on your heels because of just, the
Yeah.
way sleep stuff changes, whatever. But a couple weeks before that, someone was sick.
Yeah.
Right? And then Ada was sick. And then so it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Raquel was up all night. And then, so there's a spillover effect.
Yep.
And so the first thing that I would just come out and say is like, there's not, first of all, just some like hack of like, here's a like, easy workout you can do and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, there's a component of that. Really what it's about, and I wish someone told me earlier, is that you should expect and that it's okay for those things to happen and for you to kind of slow down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like there will be times throughout the year where you might only get 1 or 2 workouts in a week, and they're
Yeah.
probably crappy workouts, but like that in the budget, it's like there's a maybe this reference, but I always remember this. There was this story about a baseball player that was a good hitter and then started kind of like having issues, and then he got in his own head and then was a bad hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired a performance coach of some kind. And what the coach taught him was basically that you should expect a certain amount of kind of strikes. Like when you're batting,
Mm-hmm.
don't be surprised when you strike, when you miss,
Yeah.
because that's like impossible to not happen. Like you should budget for a couple of those. So when it happens, be like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
There's the first one. Okay, cool. There's the second one. Like
Yeah.
instead of being surprised,
Yeah.
you're just expecting it. And
Right.
so it's like, expect that you are going to get thrown off from sickness, from traveling, from sleep stuff. So when it happens, like, oh yeah, it's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is going to last a week or two and it's going to be kind of crappy, but I know that I'm going to come back and pick it back up.
Yep.
There was no scenario where I was going to lift consistently or work out consistently 12 months through the year.
Right.
There is literally no scenario where that happens.
Yep.
Even if you don't have kids, honestly.
Yeah.
But once you have kids, I mean, zero scenario where that's the case.
Yep. Totally.
So don't, it's like what I see happen is people freak out. So again, I've coached a lot of people into working out, and it's like that stuff happens and they get stressed out. They're like, dude, our kids are sick. Like I'm not working out right now. Or like I'm going to go on this trip. Like, I don't know what to do. It's like, dude, like that's going to happen. Like that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that all or nothing mentality, that's the part that has to change, that it's like, yeah, it's going to get kind of weird for a couple weeks.
Yep. Yep. Well, yeah. And like, I think for me, part of it, we were talking earlier today, but for me, part of it is I had a really bad habit, back in the day of picking really complex programs.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is your Monday and this is your Tuesday and that's your Thursday and that's your Friday, right? And it's like, if I miss one of those days, it's like, I don't even know how to, do the math on how this is supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a 12-week periodized perfect thing, right? And it's like, as a father, that is going to be impossible.
Absolutely.
So if I miss my Monday, do I shift everything now? And, it's like Saturday was my rest day, but now it's Sunday. And then how do I get back to it the week after, right? It becomes like a logistical nightmare. So what's helped me, especially as a dad with 4 kids, is like, I just have very simple routines, right?
Yeah.
I have simple programs, and it consists of a core lift and then some accessory stuff, right? And it's pretty much like, and so some days, again, it's like, okay, I'm not going to not go into the garage. I'm going to just do squats and not the 3 other things. Yeah. So I'm not going to do my hour of my workout. I'm going to quick warm up, and I'm just going to warm up by using lower weight to get to where my body's warm, and I'm going to get my squats in.
Yeah.
Or another day, I got to go to the airport later today, so I'm just going to get my incline bench in, right? And it's like, and again, like you said, a lot of the time, I hate to admit this, but I'm 44, but a lot of the time, I'm getting two days a week in, right? And I would like to get 3, right? Or 4, but most of the time I'm getting 2 in, and guess what? I've stayed consistent a year and a half, which was not how I used to roll, right? If I wasn't getting 3 in the perfect program, I'm not progressing. And that is not true, right? That I was gaslighting myself. That was a lie. It's like, oh no, if you just squat today really heavy because you've worked up a year and a half into pretty heavy squats, make no mistake, that is a decent workout for a 44-year-old dude to just make sure he got his squats in today or his bench in or whatever, So it's like, you mentioned it, it's expectations. Like, we got to manage those, right? It's like, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? And if I'm too focused on results, right? That's the other thing too. This sounds kind of embarrassing, but it's like, I used to lift more for physique and looking like some guy on a magazine. I did when I was younger, and now I don't care. I'm like, am I stronger? Am I more mobile? Am I better? Like, am I more active with my kids? Am I going to be able to hunt better this year? It's just all functional reasons I'm lifting. And then now that I don't care, guess what? My physique's changing and I'm getting happier and happier with it, right? Now, but again, it's like, I had to just put that away as like even a thing, because it. All these guys that like train to play, so-and-so on the next comic book thing, dude, they're juiced out of their ears. No one's saying it, but they made that transition in 3 months because they're juiced out of their eyeballs because they're getting paid $15 million. And like, that's what they're doing, right?
They're juiced out of their ears, but they're also like on a full-time protocol of
that too. Yeah.
Diet, probably working out, like maybe twice a day, probably 5-6 times a week. Like, they're living it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
There's no scenario where we're doing that.
Right.
And so like, we talked about this. One of the first episodes was on fitness stuff. Like, I have the belief that it should be pretty simple, and it of course gets overcomplicated. Like, to your point, you've been successful this time because you've embraced the simplicity of like, hey, I'm going to kind of just do like this squat thing today. And I'm not going to do this like, overhead press thing tomorrow. And that's going to get me most of the way there. Like, would you have bigger biceps and shoulders if you did 15 minutes more of like lateral raises and bicep curls and whatnot? Like, yeah. But do you care? Like, is that why you're lifting right now?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this too, but it's like part of, I think, transitioning into fatherhood and really kind of like embracing that is rebuilding around what is the right kind of standard or criteria for right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what it was before.
Right.
And it's not what you see some like, whatever, like, business bro, like salesman or real estate mogul, like what they're telling you. They're also probably on steroids. They're also probably like completely lost their family in the process. But it's like, but yeah, they're living that full-time gym life. Good for you.
Yep.
keep it up. So I think like, what does it actually look like? I'll give some personal examples.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of experience with this over the last several years now. We've gone through really rough times, man. I mean, like literally in the hospital with our first son being born, I injured my shoulder from sleep. I don't think I ever told you this. I was so exhausted because my wife labored for literally like 3 days. So I was like awake for 3 days. And then the first time I slept like, you know how people get drunk and they pass out in weird positions and like have to amputate their arm?
Yeah.
I basically did that. I like slept like this with and like messed up my rotator cuff. So anyways, the first couple of months of Brooks, I was like doing just weird stuff here and there, trying to get my shoulder back in shape, to work out again.
Yeah.
But that's when I started doing morning workouts. So I pretty quickly found out when we had Brooks that the like hour of gym time after work was gone.
Yep.
Because why? Because Raquel was exhausted from all day of taking care of Brooks, and it was my turn to help, which, we still have a version of that, right? It's like she stays home with our kids. She's worn out by the time I get home. That's not the time for me to go do an hour and a half gym session.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that will not be taken well.
No, it will not.
Yeah.
So just forget about that. So, okay, can't do that. Can't do it during the workday because I'm working meetings and whatnot. Doing it at night sucks. And it's also like, when you're having a newborn, you're helping kind of with that whole situation. So morning time it is, and I started doing the 4:30 thing back then with Brooks. I had a really good stretch with that. When you have one kid, there's less variables. We got on a schedule where Raquel was sleeping with him. I was doing kind of 4:30 to 5:30 for probably a year, pretty consistently, and actually had really good progress with that. There was hard times for sure. Sleep wasn't great at times, but I was able to kind of squeak by with that. It's gotten more complicated as we've had more kids. There's more variables, right? So like different people get sick, different sleep patterns, different whatever.
Yep.
And so, for me, what I've pretty much ended up with is morning time is the best, like early, I'm kind of doing 5 a.m. right now. And here's the reality of what happens is I will, again, I've gone through phases. I don't want to act like I've done this forever. I'll go through weird times where I can't do the mornings and I have to do weird middle of the day stuff. That does happen. The last several months, and generally speaking, it's 5 a.m. I will always wake up then and go down and start doing stuff in the garage. What will happen probably 50% of the time is something will happen mid-workout. Like I have a baby monitor out there because what I don't want is our kids waking up and going and waking up everybody else, right? So Raquel's asleep. She probably didn't sleep great. So I'm like watching to make sure no one goes in there. So I'm waking up. Sometimes I'm going up in the house at 5:30 after I've warmed up for my big deadlift session and helping, figure stuff out inside, put people back to sleep, that sort of thing. The workout is cooked. It's over. That happens like 50% of the time. Yep. Or some version of that will happen, right? And what I'll always do is just, I wake up at 5 and just go down there, and sometimes it's beautiful. It's like no one's awake until 6:30, 7. I get a full workout. I make coffee after, and I'm stoked, you know?
Yep.
But half the time, something does happen, and I got to put someone back to sleep. Half the workout's gone. I can't tell you how many times I've warmed up for my big, session, and it's serious warm up. Like I'll do 30 minutes of warm up for like heavy squats or deadlift, and I'm like at the first set of the heavy thing, something happens, someone wakes up, or I have to take our baby, our 1-year-old girl. Yep. And now I'm fully just taking her, and it's over. Yep.
Yep. And that's where, similar to my thing where it's like, I'm just going to do one lift. It's like, you still got so much work in, that's just a light day. I mean, there's different people. Like I know the Russians train like sometimes heavy, sometimes light. Like you still got plenty of work in there. Yeah. Right. It's just our expectation of what that day was going to be was different, but it's like, you got a lot of mobility, you got a lot of movement in, and it's a win. Right. And that's what I think people that are listening, we want to convey to them is anything is better than nothing. And, again, 2 half days in the week is better than like quitting for the next 6 months like I used to do.
And here's the thing is like, how it is when this stuff happens, it's not just one thing. So it's like if you're, if someone's sick, now people are sick and now people aren't sleeping the same. And then there's like this domino effect. And so actually what you don't want to happen is that your workout stuff is impacted. Like, so if you take that away too, like for me, one of the only things protecting me from being like basically like an angry asshole is kind of like working out.
Yeah.
That's just, I have a thing with that. Like that's not everyone's set up like that. I know that for a fact. But like for me, if I'm not physically using my body every day or two, stuff starts getting weird. I get snappy and I get moody and like I just don't feel good. And so do you want that to be now thrown into the mix where people aren't sleeping and people are sick and people are stressed out and now you're in a bad mood because you're not working out?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, don't make it worse.
Yeah.
You know, like, so yeah, like try your best to at least do something and move your body around. Like, even if you're actively not like lifting weights or making progress, do it to just move your body around. Like I'll do that. Like, sometimes I'll just, hard night, no one slept. I'll wake up at like 5:30, 5:45, 6, right before people wake up.
Yeah.
And I'll just do some like mobility stuff and kind of like be awake for a few minutes and kind of just get my body moving. Start feeling better, like I feel better equipped to face the oncoming, disaster that's about to happen of like everyone's sick and sad and stressed. It's like you have to kind of prepare yourself for that, because what happens to me too often, and like I'm sure you can relate to this, it's like that stuff's happening. The last thing you want is to just be thrown into that without kind of being prepared for it. Like if you wake up and your first interaction is someone's here, take this person's sick, this person's crying or whatever, it's like you're immediately in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
Your cortisol is just spiking like the first moment your eyes wake up or open. It's just like, it's not a good way to start the day.
Yeah. This is kind of a random thought I had as you were talking, but I know for me, there has been different times in my life. Like I don't know if it's going to air before or after this, but we just did an episode about diet and stuff and the importance of that. And, I used to get sick like a lot more than I do now. Right. And I think diet plays into it, and obviously being consistent with exercise and stuff. And I think my immune system, like, I don't know this, we're not doctors, but it's like you should be, as a dad, in my opinion, you should be getting sick like a quarter of the time as your family.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not, I think you should look into maybe why that is. Right. This is just me spitballing here, but it just seems that that's the way it is. Right. I barely ever get sick when they're dealing with it.
Yep.
And so if you are getting sick as much as the family, I think that's worth looking into, because I know back in the day, getting sick for a week, right, or two would throw me off of the workout plan too, right? Yeah. Who wants to work out when they're sick, right?
Yeah.
Well, now it's 2 or 3 weeks in. Now it's not a habit anymore. I got other stuff to do. Boom, I'm not lifting for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, right? I can't remember the last time that I was sick. And so I think if you take your diet seriously, if you get enough sleep, right, I think you should rarely be getting sick.
That's another good point, is like, I hate when people talk about like sleep optimization, like health experts, because it's just like, you don't have kids, like shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no optimization happening, at least when you have young kids. Right. Like you have more control now a little bit, right? Like, but I know that not, your guys aren't out of the weeds fully, but yeah, when you have, babies, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, like there's no optimization. And it's like, well, so the point I wanted to make, is you do have some control over your sleep situation and time. So what I mean is, for us, dude, especially when this type of stuff's happening, when our kids get to sleep, at 8:30 or whatever, 8 o'clock, like I go to bed immediately.
That's what I was going to get at too. Yeah. That's the optimization, right? You need to go to bed earlier. That's the only way to kind of get a little bit more time in. Yep.
Yeah, because if you are trying to do the morning thing with working out, like this is the ultimate BS, which is like, I just, I don't really have time. But it's like, but after your kids go to sleep, you're like watching Netflix or scrolling Instagram for like 2 hours.
Exactly.
And you're going to bed at like 10 o'clock or 10:30.
Yep.
It's like, dude, if you're trying to work around your kids sleeping schedule, it's like go to bed when they go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's probably your best chance of like having some time before they wake up to do something.
Yep.
And that's probably the only thing you have control over.
Yep.
I mean, this is a factor for us day to day, and like Raquel and I talk about all the time. It's like I'll even say to her like, "Hey, you should just go to bed right now because we don't know what's going to go down tonight." You know, like
Yeah.
if people are sick or whatever, it's like get this extra hour while you can because you're going to want it, you know, tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's been a huge key for me is I used to like think of myself as a night owl, you know, and it's like I don't anymore at all, right? I'm going
yeah,
to sleep as early as I can, right? If I can get to sleep at 9, that's like a win for me. Usually it's more 9:30 or 10, but it's like I am in bed trying to fall asleep by like 9:45 if I can.
yeah,
Yeah, because that's where, and I'm a little more out of the weeds than you are, but you're right. Like part of it is just sleep deprivation. Like that is just part of it. Um, so again, that's where like you were like we started in this episode, right? It's like you just have to manage your expectations. You're probably not hitting a bunch of PRs. You're probably not going to be the
nope,
strongest you've ever been. You definitely shouldn't, in my opinion, have an overly complex programming because it's not going to work out like that. It's like just keep it simple. Do the big lifts. Have some accessory stuff, and just try and hit that every week. So yeah, and anyway, I mean that covers it for me. Again, I think you're really more the guy to talk to on this level because I have fallen off the wagon. But I do feel like learning from you now, I don't because it's just something that I really enjoy. Like I need to get it in. Same with you. Like I'm definitely not my most calm, loving, charming self if I'm not like working out a couple times a week.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I would just close by saying that like if you have young kids right now and you're feeling like, well, no one really gets it, you know, like our life is crazy, trust me, dude. Like you people don't get it. It's like yeah, I do actually. Like I do get it. And I felt that way when we had, you know, our kind of first kid and kind of early on was just like, this is crazy, dude.
Yep.
How am I going to do this? It's like you are not some like anomaly that like you are absolutely like, you know, feeling kind of normal things there. And like I just want to encourage people that you can stay in shape and stay kind of on the wagon through that entire thing. It's not going to look like what it did before, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be flexing in the mirror and taking like photos of yourself shirtless because you're like so ripped and look awesome. It's like, yeah, you can look awesome and all that stuff, but it's like that's not the goal anymore. It's you have to learn how to basically be like in survival mode. Like you are in a survival mode for years essentially
Mm-hmm.
when you have young kids. And working out is like you're being creative and figuring out how to do it. But to me, you have to do that. If you think that you can't do it, you are kidding yourself. Like that to me, I'm also here to say that. Like, I can't imagine. Like, sure, there's people that have extreme circumstances. I'm sure, where I don't know, like maybe they have a child that needs a lot of extra attention, or I don't even know. Like maybe they have 7 kids, or like I can't even really think of a situation. Like, there's almost always a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like that's kind of my big message is just like you're not alone in that. Trust me, like we've both been through it, and you can do it. It just again, like you have to kind of redefine what it looks like. Set yourself up for success. Like do stuff that lends itself to quick workouts. I only have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and just be okay with that, dude. You know what I mean? Like don't expect something else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, look, you like again that we've talked about this before. The numbers don't matter. Like my numbers pale in comparison to Sam's numbers, but for me to give you an idea, right? If I'm at like 235 or 250 on my squat, 20 minutes of working up to and then getting 3 sets
heck
of
yeah,
like
dude.
255
Yeah.
in for me at my weight, like that's plenty of work. Like, for me. And then Sam's different, but again, you can do a ton in 20 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be nothing at all. That's what we're conveying, right?
for another time, but you're making a good point, which is like, if you're doing the right stuff, like squatting heavy like that is such a high ROI thing to do. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah. If you're getting some heavy sets in like that, like you are doing something very good.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that you didn't do all the like, Romanian deadlifts after and lunges and extra quad stuff. It's like, yeah, but like squatting, like that is the meat and potatoes. If you're getting a heavy squat in and like a heavy bench or a heavy row or like, deadlift, like you're doing the big stuff
Mm-hmm.
that really is, again, like 80-20 rule. Like you're doing the 80% stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's worth mentioning too, because like there is a world where I go up and kind of fart around every time, and I don't get that ROI in the same way.
Yeah, yeah, and to kind of circle back to where we started again, just because I like helping people spend their money. Like I always try and get Sam to spend his money on. We could have an whole episode on that, but
The Cole James starter pack.
yeah, but like let me follow up by like create a budget for a home gym. You are going to be way more consistent if you don't have to drive somewhere else and park and blah, blah, blah. Like you're going to be more consistent if it's at your house, number one. And number two, like, let's be real. Like, and I think Sam's better than I am at this. So I'll give him the Fatherhood of the Year award on this one. But like, Sam will sit there and like play with his kids more than I will in terms of like they're like, digging in the background, down in the ground, or playing with toys, and he'll like play with toys. Like I'm not built as much like that. It's something I really respect about Sam. But selfishly, I play a lot more with my kids when they come in the gym because they're hanging on the
Yeah.
pull-up bar. They're doing box jumps. It's a little, you can make it a fun gymnasium for them as well as you're lifting. And dude, I'm spending a lot of quality time in there helping them like figure out motor skills and
Yeah.
movement patterns. And we're playing and we're having fun and we're setting a good example, right? So it's like there are so many reasons to build out a little gym at your place. And guess what? Guess who else starts coming in there? Your wife, right? Yeah. And that's never a bad thing either because she's going to feel better too when she starts working out. So it's like it ups the game of the whole family.
Yeah.
And so it can't be stated enough that like it's like Field of Dreams. Like if you build it, they will come. Like build yourself a little like gym that stokes you out, that gets you out there. Again, if you got 10 minutes, go crush yourself for 10 minutes. Get in there 2-3 days a week, no matter what the circumstances. Like Sam said, like no one cares. Like your story's not different. There's a lot of guys out there with a ton of kids that are getting it done.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this too. Like this whole nonsense about like dad bod and haha and I got kids, so I'll get to lifting later. It's like none of that is like okay. In our book, it's like it's all a cop out, and it's like you are missing a huge pillar of dadness if you don't have the physical fitness mark checked over here. Now, I also want to say this because I know like me and Sam, like we're computer dudes, right? We're like on computers all day. I have a lot of good buddies who are landscapers, and they're up at 5 a.m. As soon as the sun comes up, they're doing heavy work with their body. Electricians, construction workers, right? And so, I do want to say that this is different for different dads out there, but for sure, if you're an office dweller, like you need to build your physical fitness because you're not getting any of that, right? And those dudes, I've seen them when they're in good spells, they're lifting, they feel better too. But a lot of the time I get it. Like those guys are not, I'm not living the life they are. So it is different for all of us. But again, if you're making your money on a computer, like you're going to get broke down, like sitting all day long. You are not going to be able to keep up with your kids. Cause that's another thing too, that we talk about. Like, Sam helps people build estate planning like stuff. And, and I work in the grief space where like we understand that no one is promised tomorrow, right? It's like live for today. It's not, I'll get to it next week or next year, or when my kid's 7, that's when I'll get in shape. Like that stuff does not happen that way in life, right? It's like today is your day, right? Like get moving today, start wherever you need to, but get your body moving. Like everyone in your household will look at you different when you do a little bit of a body comp, we'll just say.
Yeah. And I mean, not to end like on a dark note, but it's kind of like, I think we talked about this before, but it's like, dude, the clock already started before we even had kids. So your kids, like we live in a world now where your kids are going to see all kinds of pictures of you, you know, before you had kids, when they were young. So the like, I'll get to it later. I'll figure it out later. Right now, it's too crazy. I'm just going to have dad bod. Doesn't really matter because they're just going to see all that anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, oh, sick. Dad just had dad bod my whole childhood,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that's one thing. The other thing is like, dude, if you don't figure this stuff out, if you didn't do it at all before you had kids, or if you fall off, like whatever, you like starting this in your 40s is a lot harder than starting in your 20s in terms of like getting to, like, you should do it, but it gets harder each decade. If you've completely destroyed yourself by working at a desk, not working out, eating shitty food, and now you're in your 40s, like I have friends that have done that. It's like you have the body of like a 60-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Like it's not too late. Never too late, but it's like your journey to getting to a healthy spot is harder and harder and harder.
Yep.
You do not want to be starting this stuff out. Like you don't want to abuse yourself, but with, again, what I just said, and then you're just looking at it now for the first time in your mid 40s, mid 50s. Like it's going to be harder than it is for younger people. So yeah, like start it now. Like start it when you have young kids. Start it in your 30s if you can, 40s if you can, because it's not going to work in your favor as you get older. Like it's harder to build muscle. It's harder to keep muscle, right?
Yeah, and that's another point, right? It's like most of us nowadays, we're having kids in our like 30s, mid 30s, you know, like we're not having kids super young.
Right.
Right. And it's like, so the other piece of this is when they're 10, right? I had my first kid at 31 maybe, right? So by 10, I'm 40, right? My youngest is 5. I'm 44 right now. Like me and Ashley were doing the math the other day. We were like, you know, we're going to be old. Like,
You're going to be like 90 when
yeah,
he's 20.
like, yeah, exactly. And so if you want, you know, your kid to have good memories where you're in there living life with them,
Dude.
getting after it,
Yeah.
dude, your chassis has to be like mobile and in shape on some level, right? None of us are Olympic athletes at this point, but it's like, can you go have fun, like, and swim with your kid? Can you go snowboarding with them? Can you do those things, right? Because that's like real stuff for them. And so again, there's no downside to this. We haven't even talked about your wife's going to look at you differently when you put in the work and change your body too, right? And there's no downside.
Yeah.
This is a foundational core piece of fatherhood in 2025, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, a lot of our stuff will be specifically like these topics, but dads with young kids. Because again, that's where I think stuff gets weird.
Yes.
And so we're here to say, hey, that time of life is different, but these things can still happen and should still happen.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Why don't we leave it? I actually think we should do something about home gyms, by the way, now that we're talking about it. I'm like, dude, I have so many ideas of like how to get people ramped up.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for our special home gym episode.
Maybe we'll call an audible and do that one next.
We may record that right now. But anyway, we want to thank you for listening. And, you know, hopefully we come off the way we hope we are, which is we have made every mistake in the book, right? We're not experts in any of this. We're figuring out this stuff like you guys are out there, right? We could have a bunch of listeners who are dads dropping knowledge that we would be picking up on different hacks on how to do this stuff too. So I hope that is how we're being perceived right now, is we're just sharing what has worked for us and we're all learning together as dads, right? And
that's like our aspiration, but it's coming off like cringe manosphere content probably.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're both warriors out there. No, but
we're embarrassing our families for like generations to come right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the bottom line is, look, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're devoting the time to listening to other dads about how to like be good dads, you're obviously doing a lot right. And you know, and we want to just kind of honor that and say that like that's what the world needs, right? Is a bunch of strong dads like raising good kids. And I think, again, not to go to Darktown again, but I do think this is worth saying in this episode the bar for being a father, I feel like, is continually lowered, right?
Yeah.
To the point now where it's like, I show up for my kids, or I pay for the stuff, right? Or, and it's like, and again, part of that was like the game run on us, right? It's like when you look at every sitcom and
Right.
every dad is the
Homer
doughy
Simpson,
guy
yeah.
that is just a joke, but the only thing he seemingly can do is hang on to a job so that he can have like this really like just be kind of back fiddle in the band, and he's the punchline of every joke, right? We all grew up, watching that. The bar seemingly seems pretty minimal, right? So I think a lot of us can be like, I'm checking the box. I'm a really nice, loving dad that pays the bills, right?
Right.
And that was a lie sold to us.
That's a
And
great point.
and that lie, unfortunately, causes a lot of divorces. That lie, unfortunately, creates a bunch of kids who don't really respect their dad and don't really view them as a hero, right? And then it opens the door to all this nonsense comic book characters and them living and looking at other men because, like there's certain men that are portrayed that way, but not dads, right? And again, that goes back to dad bod, and it's completely a cancer in our society, not to get all dramatic, but don't own it. Don't believe it, right? That's the easy path. The easy path is the dad bod, right? And
No, by the way, no one's gonna like give you a hard time about that. It's so easy. Like if you are in a circle where all your friends are doing that, it's real easy to plug into that and just be like, yeah, we're all dads. It's kind of funny. I got a beard and I got like a little gut, but it's cool. I'm a dad now. I
yeah,
got the dad bod. Like we're gonna drink beer and
kids want pizza. Let's order pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and people rationalize their way into that, and people will pat you on the back all day for that. So don't get confused. Like that is absolutely like welcomed and accepted in our society. And so all we're saying, not that we're like, some like great, we're not like the greatest people in the world. It's just like, hey, we kind of want to set a higher bar for ourselves. That's what this podcast is all about.
Yep.
Like we aspire to something that's like, hey, we actually want to be like kind of well-rounded across the board and be in shape and, be able to set a good example for our kids, not just physically, but across the board. And it's like, that's not really out in the world, like I truly, cause I've sought it out. I've never found a good, like there's a dude, actually Alex told me of one recently, the dude that wrote that book, Deep Work, Cal Newport. Do you know his stuff? He's like an actual example that he could think of. And I agree. He's like, that dude actually is kind of sick. Like he's like all about his family life. He has a bunch of kids. He talks about it. He's built his career around his family and kind of like tuning out of stuff when it's not time to work anymore and being with his kids. He kind of works out.
Yep.
He's like a solid dude,
Yeah.
and like, that's the one example. Like, I literally can't think of that many examples. We know people in our personal lives that maybe we respect in those ways. Like I can think of some people, but it's like not a common thing,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be well-rounded as a dad. That's, I think, what we're coming to. So if you're a titan of industry and you're worth like, 20-30 million dollars, like a lot, then I check that box. So there it is. Well, a lot of the time that dude's kids are completely neglected, right? And his wife's drinking a box of wine a day, right? And it's like, so there's, that caricature that you could go to, right? Or it's like, again, the list goes on. So we're like, this whole episode was about you don't have to be on the cover of a fitness magazine to qualify as good, but you need to have a good base in physical fitness, and then we cover a lot of topics, and like we want you to be able to know how to process and express your emotions. Therefore, teaching your kids how to do that. Therefore, knowing how to communicate better with your wife, right? Who your wife and your kids, right, just by nature are going to be trying to communicate with you more emotionally than you're probably capable of doing right now. So you got to have that check box, right? And then the true shit hits the fan, right? Which is like, again, really scary territory to talk about, but we're not all promised tomorrow. There are guys in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s that die unexpectedly every day, right? So have you set up your family to weather the worst shit hits the storm kind of scenario that you can dream up as a dad, right? Like that box has to be checked. Diet, right? All of these things, right? It's like how do you preserve your longevity, your durability, to give yourself and your family the best chance that you're going to be around for a long time, right? That's I
Yep.
think at the core, like the angles we're trying to look at.
Yep. Well, cool. I feel like I forgot how we even got here, but
I don't know. But anyway, tune in next time. Thanks for listening. Make sure you share if you got buddies that you think would benefit from this content. And we'll see you next time.
see ya.